In this lesson, we will examine the different types of formal requests that may be used by an organization that is looking to adopt cloud technologies by contracting a cloud service provider. To help with these formal requests, your organization may use a request for information, request for proposal, or request for quote to help evaluate and select a cloud service provider. As we explore each of these, we will also go through a real-world example of how Dion Training, an educational technology company, might use each type of formal request in our search for a new cloud service provider. Now, formal requests refer to the process of requesting specific services or resources from a cloud service provider, such as additional storage, computing power, or network bandwidth. It is a critical aspect of cloud computing as it allows organizations to easily and efficiently obtain the resources that they need to meet their business needs. A request for information, or RFI, is the first step in the cloud provider selection process. A request for information is a document that allows an organization to gather information about potential cloud service providers and their offerings. This information is used to determine if a provider's offerings align with the organization's requirements. The request for information should be detailed enough to help the organization make informed decisions, but not so extensive that it's overwhelming for a potential vendor or cloud service provider to fulfill. A request for information will typically include questions about the provider's technical capabilities, experience, and pricing. As Dion Training starts to consider which cloud service providers they might want to use, they could issue a request for information to each of them to gather information about their services. For example, we might ask questions about the provider's experience in hosting educational technology applications, data security measures, and their cost structures. Based on their responses, we can then determine if the provider meets our basic requirements and if we would like to proceed with a more detailed evaluation of the cloud service provider's offerings. The next step in the selection process is a request for proposal, or RFP. A request for proposal is a more detailed request that allows an organization to solicit proposals from potential cloud providers. This request for proposal provides a specific information about the organization's requirements and expectations and allows the provider to submit a proposal that addresses those requirements. The RFP should be well defined and should provide a clear picture of what the organization is looking for in a cloud provider. Now, going back to the Dion Training example, we might use a request for proposal to solicit detailed proposals from potential cloud providers like AWS, Azure, GCP, or some other smaller cloud providers in the marketplace. For example, Dion Training could provide information about our application requirements, data security needs, performance expectations, contract length, and other pertinent factors. We could also ask the service providers to provide detailed pricing information and a proposed implementation timeline for the upcoming cloud migration if the contract was awarded to them. Based on the proposals, we could then determine which provider would be the best fit for our needs and continue forward in the process. Finally, a request for quote, or RFQ. Now, this can be used to obtain detailed pricing information from potential cloud service providers. The request for quote or request for quotation should include all relevant information about the organization's requirements and expectations, as well as any specific pricing information that the organization is seeking. The request for quote should be well defined and should provide a clear picture of what the organization is looking for in a cloud provider, the overall budget constraints, and any specific details that the cloud service provider needs to be aware of in order to successfully meet and fulfill the organization's requirements. By using a request for quote, Dion Training will be able to gather detailed pricing information from potential cloud providers. Another example, we might provide information about our application requirements, such as the fact that we need a content delivery network node for the Eastern United States, Western United States, one for Europe, one for Africa, one for Asia, and another one for Australia. The cloud service provider could be asked to provide a detailed quote for their services that include these features. Based on the quotes, we can then determine which cloud provider would offer us the best value for our specific needs. So, in conclusion, an RFI, RFP, and RFQ are critical tools in evaluating and selecting a cloud service provider. They allow an organization to gather information, solicit proposals, and obtain detailed pricing information from potential providers. By using these tools, your organizations can make informed decisions and select a cloud service provider that meets your specific needs, requirements, and cost constraints.